everybody was interested in the last video we did together. So people have asked me to interview you, my wife. And so let's do that.
Here we are. Thank you for your interest and for all the love and the support that you gave us during the last interview. من ترجمه میکنم براتون که عزیزانی که دارید گوش میدید. برنامه قبلی که من همسرم گرگوری رو مصاحبه کردم باش خیلی براتون قابل توجه بود و مرسی ازتون و خیلی تقاضا کرده بودین که گرگوری از من سوال بپرسه و با من مصاحبه بکنه و امروز برنامه‌مون رو جور کردیم که باهاتون باشیم و من سوالات گرگوری رو جواب بدم که از طرف شما هستش. Go ahead.
So let's go. So people, I believe, are interested in your process from dating to being engaged to that whole process that we went through of deciding what it would be like to be married, should we choose to do that, and then finally deciding to marry. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, what's that been like for you? And how did you, what was your decision making and your choosing process? What's been like for you?
سوالتون این هستش که سوالی که گرگوری از من پرسه که من چطوری به این نتیجه رسیدم که میخوام ازدواج بکنم، اون مراحل آشنایی و ملاقات و تصمیم گیری چی بود برای ازدواج و چه قدم‌هایی و یا چه افکاری چه ذهنیتی داشتم و چی باعث شد که این تصمیم رو بگیرم که میخوام ازدواج، چجوری به اونجا رسیدم. So for me, before I ever met you, I had decided that I'm done dating for fun, because I was having a lot of fun. I dated a lot of men. I had a lot of boyfriends. I went out with a lot of men, and I had a good life. I mean, when you met me, I had a great life. I was happy. And so it wasn't a matter of like I'm miserable and let me go find somebody to get married to. It was more like I really love my life. I've gotten to know myself, my weaknesses, my strengths. I've completed my past. I have a great relationship with my family, with my friends, with my body, with myself, with my work. So I really felt like I was in a great place in my life. I wasn't meeting you and at a low point and I needed someone to pick me up. I was actually like in a great place and I met you. And I had already decided I wanted to get married. I was done dating. And when you met me, it was like, oh, let's just, go out and get to know each other. And I was like, no, I'm done with that. And you were a test for me. Mm-hmm. You were a test in that normally if I liked the guy, because I really liked you, if I really liked the guy and I was attracted to him, I would have said, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go. Because I counted on myself to be somebody who can, attract a guy, keep a guy, have fun with a guy. So it wasn't like an issue, but it was an issue because I was done with that. Mm-hmm. So that was why when you said, why don't we go out with each other? I was like, no, because I knew you were not ready to get married. Mm-hmm. And I was. And so I said no to you.
Well, and, I had just completed being married for like 17 years and I hadn't dated for 100 years. I mean, I did,
Right. I don't think you'd ever dated.
Well, long time ago, but it was not like dating was a new thing for me. But I mean, I'm an intelligent guy. You dress nice, you take a girl out to a nice place, be a gentleman.
Yes.
Seems pretty simple.
Yes.
Right? And that's really what I was inviting you to do.
Yes.
Right? Let's go talk and get to know each other. And you were like, no. And
I'm done doing that.
Yeah, I'm done doing that. And I was just getting started doing that.
Right.
And so that evolved over time. And at one point you said, look, I care about you. I care about you too much to mess around with
what's
something
happening?
That's not serious, right? And
right.
so I'm just not going to engage in that. And I said, well, can we be friends? You said, no.
I have friends.
I have friends, and I don't need a friend like you.
And I don't need friends that I'm attracted to.
That was the
That
point. That I don't need a
want-
friends that I have
that I
feelings
want to
for.
have a relation, that I want to have a loving, romantic, sexual relationship with. I don't need friends like that. You know, because
Exactly.
my friends were my friends. I didn't have anything going on with them. And with you, it was totally different situation. So
And I did need a friend like that at the time.
so I think my process was that I need to stand up for what I thought was an honest process of dating somebody for marriage rather than dating somebody for fun. And I knew that the two things are not similar in any way, shape, or form. I was clear that dating anybody at that point, if I wasn't going to be serious, they also wouldn't take me seriously. And so I was serious. I wasn't going to compromise, even if it meant losing you, which I did. I lost you. We didn't see each other for 6 months at one time. And you went and dated other people, and I went and did whatever I did, but I didn't date anyone because I didn't really meet anybody that I wanted to date. So I said no to people. And then we got back together. But I think my process was that, and I see a lot of people doing this, they say, oh, I'm ready for marriage, but they don't really mean it. They say they are ready for marriage, but then when it really comes to it and somebody makes them a good enough offer, which yours was, it was a good enough offer, but it's not a real offer. So Gregory's offer to me was really good. I really liked him. He really liked me. I knew that he's not somebody who's gonna lie to me or be dishonorable in any way or take advantage of me. None of that. But I also knew that he wasn't ready for marriage. So I didn't want to be his practice. I didn't want him to practice on me. I wanted him to practice on other women and come to me when he's ready. So that's why I said no to you.
Yeah.
And you did. You went and practiced on other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it was easy enough to attract women and get them to go out with me and stuff like that. But then I would find myself, you know, walking them to their car or their door and just like, good night, you know. I didn't want to get involved.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So anyhow, they weren't you, like I said in the last video. You know, I dated the other women, and once I had met you, something clicked. You know, something was just like, I remember we were at some event and my brother was there, and I was standing next to him and you were talking to him, and I was just watching you talk to my brother, and I became completely absorbed in that moment. And I walked out and I was just kind of looking at my shoes walking, and my brother said, what's going on? And I said, I'm so screwed. I said, I'm so, that's the only girl that's going to work for me. You know? So so I knew it had to be you, and yet I also knew that there was no way that I was going to be ready for a long time. Yes. And
I knew that, which is why I wasn't willing to date you.
And even if I had not just come out of a marriage, let's say I hadn't ever been married, I still had a principle for myself that people ought to know each other for a couple of years.
Yes.
Anybody can behave themselves and be on their best behavior for 6 months or so.
Which you were?
Yeah, anybody could do that.
I agree.
You know, but then other things start to develop over time, and you have to give it that time to find out if that's really what you're up to.
Right, and I agree with you. There were a lot of people that I meet who, you know, they want to meet, they want to date, and then they want to mate. they don't want to go through the process of the 12 stages, which, by the way, if you don't know, Gregory has a fantastic audio
guide
called The 12 Stages of Romantic Relationship. You can download it or buy it as a CD, or it's really a guide that lets you know what are the stages that you have to go through from meeting somebody to even after you are engaged or married afterwards. What are the stages of a relationship, and to keep a relationship. And we went through those stages together, and that's how it developed, because a lot of people around us were just meeting each other, going to bed with each other, moving in with each other, and then staying together, or getting married after like a few years of living with each other. And I didn't want to do that. I was very clear on, I want to date for a long time, and we dated for a good 6 to 9 months before you proposed. I mean, you proposed before that, but you proposed for me not to go out with other people. But I mean, you proposed, and then, then it was like really staying together and getting to know each other and going through the ups and downs of what does it take to really be in a serious relationship, and then to be engaged in the conversation of being married. Not be engaged, but be engaged in the conversation to be married. Are you the right person for me? And I had to see how Gregory interacts with his family, how he interacts with his coworkers, with his employees, with other people, our friends, my family, total strangers even, where we went to meet in meetings or groups or parties or events. I really had to see a lot of things. How is he financially? How is he physically? How does he treat himself? How is his health? How does he deal with problems, with issues? How does he get angry? How does he have a good time? What is his sense of humor? What are his values? What happens when I say no to him? What happens when I get really angry, or I don't like something, or we have a fight? I really needed to know these things and not just jump in because I'm attracted to him, or he's attracted to me, or we have a good time, or we have some common values. That wasn't enough for me, because I was never going to get married, ever. For me, it was like getting married one time and that was it, So and those things were really important.
And we really did move through those stages. That's how I discovered these stages. And I realized that in the past, I had skipped ahead of those stages, like everyone else, like you described. You meet someone, you like them, you have hormonal reaction to them. You call that hormonal reaction love. It must be love, right?
Or whatever.
Well, it's like I was having a reaction to you whenever I saw you talking to my brother, and I was just looking at you and listening to your voice, and I had a reaction. I was like, oh man, I'm stunned, And I had to see if that was just a hormonal reaction or if that was a real spiritual recognition and connection. And I guess we can get to that later in the conversation, because there is a sort of energetic or spiritual recognition of something. And I'm not pointing to soulmates and all that, although, people use those words. I believe that the soulmate is the one that you say is your soulmate.
Right.
There's not like some predestined person out there that if you don't find them, your life will be incomplete.
Or you only came to find them.
Yeah. Or they're looking for you. Your soulmate is the person that you identify with, you connect with, and you go, I'm choosing you.
Choosing you, and
I have other choices.
The rest of my life with you.
She had other choices. I had other choices. Okay. But something deeper than just my mind and my hormones was choosing a resonance with this being. I was like, I recognize this.
And we spend, if I'm honest, we spend hours and hours and hours and hours really getting to know each other and talking deeply about ourselves and our issues and our weaknesses and our strengths and our needs and our fears and our intentions and our goals and our past and our families and our trauma. I mean, we dealt with everything. I mean, we did not just go out and have a good time with each other and it wasn't about that. It was really, really, we were both serious. Like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this right. And I was too.
I'm laughing because it became kind of a pattern that every time we'd go to a restaurant,
Yes.
they would eventually be asking us to leave.
Yes,
we closed down every restaurant we went to.
We were the last people in every restaurant.
The place would empty out. They'd start stacking the chairs, and we'd still be engaged
And then
in
we'd
conversation.
sit in the car and talk for hours.
Yeah.
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 So, but those are important things, and we took a lot of long walks. We sat on the beach quite often. We went to coffee shops. We really, really spent time getting to know each other. And I think one of the most important things for me was that you were honest with me. You never lied to me. You never pretended with me. It's not like you never lied to me. There were times when you didn't tell me things, especially when it was about other girls, like coming after you or chasing you or whatever. But I mean, that's to be expected. But you never lied to me like this, being dishonest with me. That was never the case. No. And it was important.
I was following my father's advice. He says you should always tell the truth, but you don't have to go around telling it all the time.
What?
So you don't have to tell everybody everything.
I mean, I think one of the things that when I think back, one of the things that really attracted me to you was that you were honest with me, and that even if there was something that, like you said, you weren't telling the truth all the time, you would eventually tell the truth, and you would come back and say, I wasn't ready to tell you the truth. Yeah, I wasn't ready to tell you the truth, but I'm ready now, and here's what happened. So we had that bond, that friendship, that intimacy, that closeness, that trust that got built up. And one of the things that people are always asking me is, how did you build trust? And I think you and I built trust by not having everything worked out all the time, but working things out all the time, never letting things go, and really getting to the bottom of things and being willing to really confront each other and discuss things and talk about things and ask the hard questions and have the hard conversations. And one of the things that I want to really thank you for is Gregory and I, during much of our relationship, even to today, we've always done workshops together. We've always worked on ourselves and on not our relationship, but on ourselves, our self-growth, our learning, never thinking that, oh, it's enough. Oh, I don't need to grow anymore. I don't need to learn anymore. Oh, I'm complete. Oh, I know myself now. We're always going to the next level. Always, always, always. And I know a lot of people that are like, when is it enough? It's like never. It's never enough.
No, we both have more than a PhD in transformational technologies of all types. And we've made the investment of time and money and travel and study and really done the hard work. And so, yes, I want to thank you for being my partner in that too, because that was a big thing for me, is to find somebody who's interested in and will go on those adventures with me. And, sometimes you were dragging me to go to some place that I was like, okay, I've done that before, but let's go do it again. And I would always learn more and more. So we've been partners in personal development for all these years, and that's a big deal. I think that beyond being attractive, beyond providing a safe space for each other, that it's important to be interested in growth and development. Because if you're not growing, look at a plant. If it's not growing, it's what?
Dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A plant's either growing or it's dying.
Right. So some of the questions that you've asked me
Yeah.
to talk about with Gregory were, how did my family?
Oh yeah.
How did my family take it when I decided that I was serious with you? So they've asked me, you know, what was it like dating an American? Did your Persian family accept that? You know, Gregory and I are so different. Not only Iranian American, but Jewish and Christian.
Not really a Christian. I'm a Taoist.
A Taoist. He's Taoist. His family are Christian.
Yeah.
And then married 3 times, not married ever. I grew up with a family that's intact. My parents never separated, never got divorced. We always lived together with my brothers and sisters. You know, so I had a very different life from Gregory, whose
my
parents divorced when
my
he
parents
was 14.
divorced. My father was married 4 times.
4 times. You know, so, and then you lost your mom when you were like 21, I think.
No, I lost my mom when I was 18.
18.
And my father when I was 21.
Right. So, I mean, very different, very, very different. And then Gregory left home when he was like 14. You know, so we did not have really pretty much anything in common. We were like complete opposites. I grew up in the lap of luxury. My father provided for me until I was like in my mid 30s even. I was supported by my parents all along. And very, very enmeshed family system. And Gregory's was a very
well, we were a middle class family.
system.
I mean, my parents owned a couple of businesses. We had
Right.
a pizza place, and my father was a house painter.
Right.
Okay, but so we certainly weren't rich, but we were a middle class family. I wasn't so worried about money. If I needed something like a new bicycle or something like that, my father said, "Okay, paint the house,
Right.
wash the cars, do something,
Right.
and I'll help you buy it, but earn some money, do something for it."
And
so
that was the difference.
I'm really grateful for that.
If I needed a car, I would say, "Daddy, I need a car," and then I'd get a car. Right? And I didn't have to earn my car. But so when we met, and I knew that we were very different, and everybody in my family was expecting me to marry a nice Jewish man, preferably a doctor, or like if worst comes to worst, a lawyer, you know, an architect maybe, you know, like really like if things got really bad, a businessman, you know, but they were hoping that I would choose correctly. And then an American married a few times, you know, all of that. It was just like not at all what they expected. And yet what was really great is my family met you and they loved you and they told me that if this is your choice, then we respect your choice. And then they really took you in. Even when we weren't ready to get married, they were very gracious and very accepting. And, you know, they didn't like it that it took us so long to get married, but, and that we canceled the wedding twice.
Yeah.
But even then, even that got accepted, you know?
Yeah, it was really something when we did have the wedding, and you know, you had like, I don't know, 120 family members there, and
Yes.
I had about
5,
and
Yeah.
and you know, my American friends were like, "Wow, Persian women are really beautiful. I see why." But there was one moment that I will remember forever that soldered in my heart, that welded in my heart. my connection with your family, and that was that the older women of the family, your aunts and your mom, who were all more or less the same age, and then
their aunts
and their aunts and
right.
And friends gathered around me and started dancing around me,
Right.
and it felt like some kind of initiation ritual.
Yes.
And this went on, and it was mesmerizing, and all of my friends who were well over 6 feet tall, these big guys that were there, cops,
They
and
became children.
you know, they were like, you know,
Yeah.
wow, what's, you know, they just like stopped with their
Right.
jaws open, like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I'm really proud of in my own growth and development, and the reason that we were able to not only get married, but to have this amazing relationship for 25 years, and come August, it will be 26 years, is those women in my family. I learned from them the magic, if you will, of how to honor a man, how to treat a man, how to be feminine in relationship with a masculine energy, how to honor it, how to respect it, how to be around it and not lose yourself. So, in other words, because I'm a feminine energy in relationship to a masculine energy, it doesn't mean that I fall apart and you have to pick me up all the time, which is what a lot of people think, including myself, before I learned how it works. I used to think that if you're feminine, you're weak. If you're feminine, you can't you can't take care of yourself, or you have to let a man control you, or overpower you, or tell you what to do, or be your master, or, and all of these wrong thinking. I'm a very strong woman. I'm very capable of taking care of myself. I'm extremely independent. I have, once I make up my mind, that's it. I have very solid boundaries. Um, I know how to stand up for myself. But that doesn't mean that the man in my life doesn't get to be a man, doesn't get to have his say. We don't get to argue with each other and convince each other, or respect each other and love each other, and that I can't be feminine and he can't be masculine, and then sometimes we can't change places. That's the magic of those women that you met, because I grew up with women who really knew how to be women and how to honor men, and their men adored them and loved them, and that was what I got to grow up with, which was what you got to see and experience.
And I had not experienced that before. I had experienced, well, we even talked about it in the last video, that I had previously only had relationships with feminine women who needed to be taken care of in some way, right? And I was rather put off by women that came off as too masculine. It's like, I don't need a dude, I need a woman, you know? And so I would be put off by that. But you were a beautiful blend of femininity who definitely had a sense of self, a sense of, and you have, a powerful masculine side, that demands respect at sometimes, and I do respect that part of you. And even your mom to this day, she, here's your mom, she's your mom. She calls me Mr. Morgan. She doesn't call me by my first name, and she shows me so much respect. And it's very humbling, when you have a woman of that caliber, because she's like a queen, your mom. And so it makes me want to be a better man, just so that I can feel I deserve that respect. I want to be the kind of man that feels like I deserve that.
And that's, I think, how I would like to end the show is the thing that Gregory just said, I think is the most important lesson that I have learned as a woman, is when a woman respects and loves herself and values herself and has goals in her life and knows who she is and spends the time to really get to know herself before she goes into a relationship, she brings that respect to the relationship, and she also gives that respect to another person. And then that person becomes a better person because of that respect. You don't lose something because you give that respect. You get that back tenfold. And that has always been the thing that I learned from my mom, because my mom really gave that respect to my dad. And I watched my whole life how she was really the master of the relationship, because she was so capable of giving that love and that respect. And people around her, and including my father, including us, wanted to become better people to earn and keep that respect. And for many years in my life, I fought that. I was like, I don't want to be like that. That's weak. That's just, appeasing to people. And that's just being too nice to people. And then I realized, wow, this woman holds so much power, because no matter, even when I was rebelling against her, or like being a complete and utter like contrarian to her, I realized that I would do anything to get her approval. At the end of the day, my mom's approval meant so much, and her respect. And I didn't want to lose that, because it was so precious and so valuable. And I think that's what you're pointing out. And so many women today, I see that they don't respect themselves because they've never found themselves, and they've never spent the time to get to know themselves. And then they just want to go and get a man to love them, which is not hard to do. Women are lovable by just who they are. But to keep it, I think it takes skill and learning, and to be willing to spend that time to do that.
Well, and it's one thing to get a man attracted to you. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I mean, look at you, look at women. They've got these eyelashes and jewelry and beautiful lips and, all kinds of cool equipment, and it's pretty attractive. It's pretty easy.
We're designed that way.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to get some guy to.
I got persecuted because I said that. I said, women, you look at them. What is there to look at with men?
I think you just.
I know, overwear.
You kind of outspoke yourself there about the men. But I think the point you were making, just in her defense, okay, because I know where she was coming from, is that women do all this effort. They do it 2,000% to be attractive and beautiful and smell good and everything. And guys kind of show up a lot of times in flip-flops with a t-shirt and their belly hanging out. And it is kind of like, hey, come on, guys, do something, dress up a little bit, show up and be something that these beautiful women can respect, can show respect to. And
respect yourself.
Honestly, I already respected myself for a number of other reasons, but I was kind of raw and tough around the edges. I had been on this. I brought myself up from the streets from 14 years old. I taught myself everything. I educated myself. I could speak 2 languages. I'd had multiple businesses. I made good money. And so I was like, yeah, I respect myself, but in a cowboy kind of way. Right. And so the gentleman part of me was just hidden underneath all that and needed a little polishing. And at first I felt disrespected, but then I realized, no, there's a higher version or a more sophisticated and refined version of myself that I really would like to become. And so you open the doors to that by just being who you are and being somebody that I wanted to earn your respect.
And, sometimes as women, we're afraid to ask for that. And then we don't do justice to men because we think that they're not capable of it. so then we don't ask for that.
Mhm.
But then when we do, like you said, with respect,
Mhm.
then it comes out. I really,
You would express it by letting me know how you felt about it.
Mhm.
See, as a man, I wanted you to feel good. I wanted you to be happy and feel good and have good feelings around me, you know? And so if you just told me what to do, I don't like that.
Mhm.
You know, it's just like your mom tells you what to do, the school teacher tells you what to do. Now you don't need another woman telling you what to do, right? And a lot of men reject that.
yes.
But you would tell me I would feel so much better if you would do this, or you know, when you do that, it doesn't feel good to me.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't combative. It was conversational.
Well, and I cared about your feelings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
there you go.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be with you today. Thank you
Yeah.
for showing up and doing this interview with
It's
me.
fun.
خیلی ازتون ممنونم. مرسی. این برنامه رو ما زیر نویس فارسی براش خواهیم گذاشت که بتونین ازش لذت ببرین و زیر این پست هم به همون بگین که تجربه شما چی بوده. مرسی.